Check, check, check. My camera's so far away, so the volume's always low. I'm gonna turn it up, and hopefully y'all can hear me. I'll try to speak. I'll try to speak loudly. Uh-oh. I'll be watching my chat window on YouTube and on Instagram. Instagram might cut me off because I like to go long. So sorry if that happens today. Good morning. Happy new moon. Yeah. I feel like we just all need to take a collective breath where we inhale and we exhale, because these oppositions are crazy making. I mean, literally feeling like we're being split in two. And it's hard because when we make things like black and white, it feels easier to make decisions. Because if we take too many factors into consideration, it's paralyzing. So we're at this moment really negotiating with our values and priorities and really trying to figure out which ones are actually which ones actually are most important to us. But also really recognizing that there are priorities and values that we've put at the top that actually undermine our capacity to act with conscious intention. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes we have been living with priorities that were not a clear and true articulation of what our conscious intentions are. So that is, I need some lotion because I'm ashy. Hold on. I want y'all to see my ashy hands. I'll be right back. Okay, I meant to moisturize my situation before I got on here. I had washed my hands and all that stuff and forgot. Listen, I can't be out here looking ashy on this video. This goes out into the ether forever. Once it's out there, once my ashy hands are out there, I can't take them back. Anyways, so I don't really want to talk too much about the astrology today because there's a lot on my Twitter page and in the weekly forecast, and I've been talking about it. There's videos up here already about this opposition energy. Hey, Papa Boko, I live for this. I'm so excited. And there's so many YouTube videos up on my channel that are talking about this current place that we're at. I've been talking about it since last year on Twitter, and I did several really in-depth videos on YouTube. So if you need more information about the actual astrology and timing of things, I suggest you set aside some time and peruse my YouTube channel and follow me on Twitter if you don't already. I'm going to transfer some information to you, Instagram today, hopefully. So we're at a new moon. I'm sorry, we're at a full moon. And it says new moon here. Ooh, can I edit this right now? I can. Hold on. Now it's all fixed. I think. I don't know. I edited it. There we go. Yeah, we're at a full moon in Sagittarius, and what I do want to say is that this is the first of two full moons in Sagittarius. The second one will be an eclipse on July 16th. It'll be a full moon lunar eclipse, and this moment carries us right back to the end of 2018 and the beginning of 2019, where we had a solar eclipse in Sagittarius that was tightly conjoined Saturn. The full moon lunar eclipse on July 16th will be conjoined Saturn as well. And you know, I've been talking about this like a broken record for a while now, but you see it now. You see it now. Everyone is talking about how words matter so importantly at this moment, that words mean things, that truth is important and facts are important and the story that we tell is important. So, the evidence is all around you. I've been talking about it. I said today on Twitter, I'm not a trendsetter, I'm a trendseer. But I'm also a trendsetter too. Just watch. Anyways, as I am usually doing on here, I've got my golden thread tarot. And for y'all on YouTube, I'm dual broadcasting on Instagram. And for y'all on Instagram, I'm dual broadcasting on YouTube. So Instagram might cut me off because it only allows like an hour for live. Hi, Tatiana. It only allows me like an hour, and I usually end up going like an hour. But I'm not talking as much at the beginning, so maybe that's helpful. Anyways, I've got my golden thread tarot, and I don't really use spreads. I generally just like to lay down the cards and let them speak. So what I do is I shuffle the cards until I feel like they've had enough, until I feel like I've had enough. I actually have tarot calluses. Like, don't some of y'all that do tarot, don't y'all have like tarot calluses like on the parts of y'all fingers that you use to shuffle? I do. I have like rough skin right here. Anyways, I'm going to shuffle these cards until we've all had enough. And then I'm going to cut the deck. And the card on the bottom will be a significator for, thank you, Sonetta, will be a significator for this reading, and we'll refer back to it as a context and reference point for everything else that comes after it. If you've watched any of my other lunation or new or full moon tarot divinations, you'll know that I spend quite a bit of time talking about that first card, and I'm constantly referencing back to it as we lay down cards. So I'll probably end up laying 9 cards down. I don't know why I like the number 9 for this. It just, not the number 9, the number of cards as 9 for this. So I don't know. It just goes. So let me just shuffle a few more times. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I look forward to this. This is the highlight of my month, doing these like twice a month. So I'm excited to see what the cards have to say. My trends for 2019 are words mean things and redefining truth. How are you making your life a living testimony of your intentions and convictions? How are you discarding narratives that undermine your conscious intentions? How are you discarding the dogma of identity where you identify who you are with what you've been through and you rationalize it rather than looking at what you've been through as a light guiding you forward about how to cultivate conscious intentions? You're not what you've been through. I know y'all hear that a lot, but I don't think y'all really hear that. That you're not literally, your identity is not rooted in your experiences. It doesn't have to be, it can be. And we kind of do it subconsciously, but this moment is really about becoming aware of the ways that we have identified who we are with what we've been through. So anyways, I think that's enough shuffling. Let me go ahead and cut this deck. Hope you are well. As always, thank you for your insight. It was my pleasure, Tatiana. I didn't get you at 6:48 in Hawaii. Hi, Anja, 11 Tarot. Thank you for joining me. I've got family in Mililani. Is that how you say that? Mililani? Yeah, I've got family there. In Hawaii. Oahu. All right. Oh, you know what? Before I show you this card, I'm just gonna precede it by saying that the card on the bottom, every time I've done these lunation readings, has been so heavy, intense, and I just be like slumping my shoulders like, can't you give us an encouraging word? I mean, the word is encouraging, but like, can we start off on something different? So we starting off on something different this time. I think we've had like the 9 and 10 of swords, 10 of swords twice, 9 of swords twice. We've had the devil. Goodness gracious. But today we have, hold on, let me make sure I'm seeing here. Today we have the Four of Wands on the bottom. And I like to see the Four of Wands as having reached a milestone. It's not the end, it's not over, but you have exerted your will and you have exercised your will. The first three cards in the suit of wands that come before the Four of Wands, the Ace of Wands is pure will. It's the oomph, the key in the ignition, the foot on the gas. It's the strength of your will, having that stored momentum and that potential energy that's ready to be actualized. And then you get to the Two of Wands, which is about dominion, right? So the Ace is Aries, the Two is Leo, right? It's about dominion. It's about it's about perceiving that which is under your authority, right? It's about exercising dominion, that Two of Wands. The Three of Wands is about intention. It's about setting intention. It's about the intention that informs your action, that's Sagittarius, right? So when we get to the Four of Wands, we reach a milestone, right? It's where we have become aware and conscious of our will. It's where we have become aware and conscious of our authority, our entitlement to have an impact on the world around us, and that we have conscious intentions that inform how we use the strength of our will, how we exercise dominion, right? So when we get to the Four, we are reaching a milestone. And for me, the milestone may not necessarily be about what has manifested or actualized in the external world. It's more about what has come up into your conscious awareness, right? Becoming aware of the will means that in your mind, right, in your mind, you are present. It means that your perceptions and judgments are under the authority of your will. And it means that your conscious intentions inform your choices and actions. So I'm going to add a little bit to this card to say that the Four of Wands is also this sense that I had to take back to church sometimes and say that we've come this far by faith. And what that means is that we can't always control that our actions will have the intended outcome, right? We cannot always be in charge of that. But we've come this far by faith, meaning that we don't stop exercising our dominion. We don't stop flexing our will. We don't stop doing our best to find the action that correlates most authentically with our conscious intention, right? So, yeah, the Four of Wands. And I kind of alluded to this on Twitter this morning, that I was saying that at this point, I use the words, we are at this point where it's time to cull the vestiges of our former self. I believe that's what I said. And we examine, meaning we examine who we said we are. And we look at our actions as giving us insight we look at our past actions as giving us insight into the unconscious intentions that have informed our choices, rather than trying to rationalize the choices that we've made based on present conscious intentions. I'm going to say that again so you can hear me. I'm so wide open that I don't even know what I said. Lord help me. I'm going to try to say it again. We look back at our past actions and choices. This is what we've been doing prior to this point that we've been reworking. Looking back at our past actions and choices and rationalizing them based on our present conscious intentions rather than allowing them to inform us of our unconscious intentions. So, this moment, we're trying to flip this thing around and analyzing and examining our past choices and actions and allowing them to give us the insight to cultivate more authentic conscious intentions. I hope that made sense. Sometimes these words like come straight through me and out of my mouth, and I don't even have time to think about them or process them before I say them. All right. So we're putting down 3 cards at a time. I'm trying to make sure I have enough room here. Putting down 3 cards at a time. All right. All right. We've got the 7 of Wands. Got the Hermit. And we've got the 9 of Cups. The 9 of Cups and Hermit next to each other is making me go. It's making me think a little bit. 7 of Wands. Persistence. Persistence. Persistence in the face of external resistance, persistence in the face of internal resistance. I have so many scriptures in my head this morning, so I'm just going to go ahead and say them because they must be relevant. Hold on, let me look this one up so I can make sure I'm saying it correctly. So I'm going to de-Christianize this. But the scripture that came to my mind was Philippians chapter 3. And I want to see what it's saying before. Woo! I love when spirit just be so loud and on point. So I pull up this scripture and I just want you to hear this, and I'm going to do my best to take out like the Christian language so that you can really hear the message here. Not as though I had already attained, either were already perfect, but I follow after, if that I may apprehend or receive for which also I am apprehended. Ooh, Lord, this King James Version. Anyways, this is it right here. But this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind me and reaching forth unto those things which are before, I press toward the mark for the prize. And so I'm going to take out for the prize of the high calling of God through Jesus Christ and say, I press toward the prize of integrity, which is a harmony between my conscious intentions and actions in full awareness of my unconscious intentions. I might need to read this again. Forgetting those things which are behind. And reaching forth unto those things which are before. So this goes back to what I was saying about the 4 of Wands, in that, you know, this moment that we're in is opening the door, is turning on the lights. It's turning on the lights in the basement and all of these places that we've not had the fortitude or opportunity to look, right? And we are becoming aware of how we've justified what we've been through because it made us who we are. We've justified what we've been through because it's made us who we are. When in fact, if we had chosen for ourselves, who would we be? Who would you be choosing for yourself? Choosing for yourself from this moment, who are you? Not looking back and rationalizing what you've been through, right? Seeing yourself as a consequence, right? But remember, whenever we're talking about fire signs, which is Sagittarius, fire changes the atmosphere. Fire walks into a room and lights it up, right? So, Lord. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling. What does your life really look like when you're really choosing consciously? When you persist against those narratives inside of you that are always looking back, always looking back. Now, this is not to say that what has happened to you and what you've been through doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is that if you are alive right now in 2019, your Sagittarius house is on fire and it's time to choose with conscious intention. And don't be afraid of recognizing the ways that your conscious intention has been hijacked. Okay? Whew. All right. So the next one is Hermit card. And the Hermit card, you know, I have to read these together. These were really irritating me before, but I see it now. That there is a peace that comes with understanding that though you may not know what you're looking for, you know that what's in front of you is not it. And that really takes us back to the Four of Wands. When you reach this Four of Wands milestone that we're at right now, it's really saying, congratulations, you have, man, the hardest part of this work is releasing the resistance to things coming up from your subconscious. Releasing the resistance to the persistent messages that are constantly telling you the same thing and you're ignoring the message because you feel like you can't handle it, like you can't deal with it, like it's immutable, like you can't change it. But I call this mutable madness, and it's crazy, and it's a lot of change and a lot of activity, and you don't know which way to look. But mutable madness also means there's a blessing in the opportunity to change, right? So this Hermit and this Nine of Cups is talking about the peace that passes understanding. When you recognize that you've come so far just by being gracious and compassionate with yourself and understanding that even though you haven't found it, even though you may not have taken the action, even though you may not have taken the risk, even though you may not have made the choice yet, you actually have found peace in recognizing that this is not it. Because see, we often, and this goes back to what I was saying with the Four of Wands and the whole this moment of ambivalence, where when we create these black and white narratives for ourselves, we think that we are making it easy for ourselves to choose. And yes, we have to pare down and we have to separate the wheat from the chaff, meaning we have to discard all of those things that distract us from the essence of our decision and choice, right? So when we come to this Nine of Cups and we come to this Hermit, we're really talking about the peace that comes with knowing that the hardest part was becoming aware. The hardest, most difficult part, the deepest part of the work is being vulnerable enough to let down your psychic defenses, meaning the parts of your mind and your psyche that want you to stay who you are, that are deeply invested in the narratives and experiences that have made you that way. The fact that you've been able to let them down and let some other stuff come up, the fact that you've been open to reinterpreting your experiences, the fact that you even started looking, that's something to be at peace with. That's something to be content with. That's something to say, you did good. You could feel good about that. You could feel good in this space. But again, the Four of Wands says that this is a milestone. We have not reached the end. Okay, I'm missing all stuff. I heard toward the mark just then, yes. Yeah. So let's keep going. How am I doing here? Um, 27 minutes. Woo! All right, we've got the Page of Wands. We like the Eight of Cups here. Trying to make sure both cameras can see it. And we've got the Two of Cups. So we've got some wands and we've got some cups. We've got some fire and we've got some water. Water is instinct and biology. It's the physiological sensation of being in a body and how we interpret those sensations. Page of Wands. This is the map maker. The Page of Wands is the map maker. This is being in the state of, let's go back. Let's go back, because when I talked about the Four of Wands, I was talking about the Ace. Um, I was talking about the Ace, which is like Aries, and it's the impulse to act, the strength of will, the actual capability to move. When we talked about the Two of Wands, which is dominion, it's Leo, it's the authority, the entitlement to trust in your own perceptions and judgments and use those to exercise, um, to declare what is in your life. And then we talked about the Three of Wands, and those aren't in this reading, but I'm just kind of giving you a narrative of how we can get to the Four of Wands, right? So the Three of Wands is that conscious intention that informs our actions and choices. We got to the Seven of Wands, which is about the persistence in the face of both internal resistance as well as external resistance. That when you're really ready to make your life a living testimony of your intentions and convictions, there is going to be some disruption in your life. Nothing that comes into contact with fire stays the same. It changes, it transforms, it's consumed. It's used as fuel. It's illuminated. See, when you live in your conscious intentions, when you are embodying your convictions, your moral principles, your religious convictions, when you walk and you press towards that mark, other people get uncomfortable because they cannot stay the same in your presence. When you embody that fire, that fiery contagion of conviction, other people can't stay the same in your presence. And so they get on the defensive because you being authentic illuminates for them the way that they're not being authentic. And so it disrupts your relationships and people don't know how to act. See, you got off the script and they're still on the old script, but you got a new one and they don't know the words yet, right? But it's so tempting to go back to the old script just so everybody can be comfortable, just so everybody can read their lines and we can move on with the movie that's your life and we can move on with the show, right? But now at this moment, you have to persist and be comfortable in the discomfort of knowing that you're not there yet. But also pat yourself on the back because you did that. You did that. So when we get to the Page of Wands, right, we know that we're not there. This is just a milestone. This is just like going from fifth grade to sixth grade, right? You're going to middle school, right? So the Page of Wands is the map maker. The Page of Wands is saying, hold on, let me pause, let me contemplate, and let me consider the different ways that I can move forward from this particular point. When you make a map, you are not necessarily saying, how do I get from A to B? You're saying, I'm at A and let me set my vantage point of all of the paths around me. Once you make the map, then you can figure out where you're going. But the Page of Wands doesn't necessarily know where they're going. They're just making the map. So if you reach a milestone, right, and you got to this milestone by becoming consciously aware of all the things that were keeping you from living with conscious intention. I tweeted this morning and it's so important. Consciousness is a kind of arrogance that makes you believe that what you know and what you can perceive is all there is, but it's a trap. It's really a trap, right? Because what you know isn't all there is. What you can perceive isn't all there is. That's why for Saturn and Sagittarius, I say precedence is not a framework for progress, right? Because you cannot keep looking back, forgetting what is behind you and pressing towards the mark. The mark is saying, wow, I had this conscious intention and I actualized it. I didn't let the past be my precedent for the progress that I'm trying to make in my life. So now that you've made it thus far, right, it's time to make a map, right? Um, Now, these next two cards are kind of weird coming after the Page of Wands, but I think it's giving us a sense of direction. Um, um, we've got the Eight of Cups and we've got the Two of Cups here, right? One thing that I just want to press right here. If you're a woman with coarse hair, there's something called a teeny weeny afro. We call it the TWA. And I have had several TWAs. I went natural, meaning got rid of my perm for the first time in 2003, right? And so when you first cut it off, you free, man. You just feeling that breeze. You getting in the shower and just letting the water run on your head every day. You letting that window down because you don't have to worry about your curls falling. You walking in the rain without the umbrella because you ain't worried about no frizz, right? But then that TWA starts to grow out and you like, same thing happens when you have locks. You be like, this is an awkward and uncomfortable phase, right? But if you want to get to where you're going with your hair growth goals, you just have to like really deal with the discomfort and awkwardness. So most of us, we start like getting big earrings and we put the makeup on and we accessorize in order to like carry us through the awkward moment of like the in between, you know, before you could really do a twist out or before you could do some comb coils. Like it's just, what am I doing here, right? So this is this moment that we're at. And it is so tempting to go back. It is so tempting to go back. But you know you can't because it don't even look the same, right? Like you literally looking back like, how was I so comfortable living my life this way? Like how was I so comfortable living this way? Right? So there's the pull and urge to go back, but the 8 of Cups is like, you know, it's really this moment of and this came up in the last reading. I almost want to pull it up to see where it was. It might have been this was in the last reading. I love when these cards connect through readings because it really gives us a narrative of what we're dealing with. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Oh, it was the last card in the reading. Okay. Anyways, so the 8 of Cups is like you've invested your you've been invested in something, right? Now, an emotional investment means that maybe in some ways you might perceive that your survival depends on it. An emotional investment also means that there's an attachment, right? Don't be afraid of that word. Attachments are important. But 8 of Cups is about abandoning that emotional investment, abandoning that attachment, right? So this is really giving us some sense of direction for this map that the Page of Wands is kind of setting out here. From this milestone, from this progress, from this place that we've gotten to of becoming aware of just letting things come into our mind, right? Now we set a map and we see what's in front of us. But the 8 of Cups is, I think, is a warning, right? It's a warning to say that, you know, you might be tempted to go back to doing and being things that were comfortable, but like you know too much now. Like you literally you know too much to go back at this point. So when you feel that urge to be your old self, when everyone keeps talking to you like you're your old self, and you're like, are you talking to? You could not be possibly talking to me because that's not who I am. It can be so easy to just slip right into that old suit. Nah. The 2 of Cups is honestly for me not a card of love, right? The 2 of Cups is not a card of love for me. The 2 of Cups is this reconciliation and negotiation. When it does come up in relationships, though, the advice I give clients is to match that energy, meaning that don't overgive, don't over invest. Um, um, match the energy that's being given to you, and let it what's the word I'm looking for? Help you manage your expectations. Um, but I'm thinking more of the ways. I guess I kind of already talked about this card now that I think about it, right? When we're reconciling and negotiating with our old self and examining the emotional costs of abandoning attachments to who you were. Reconciling and negotiating with the emotional cost of abandoning who you were. I'm going to just leave it at that. Where my cards at? All right. With this last row of cards. Oh, my favorite Five of Swords. King of Wands. Look at all these wands. Three of Pentacles. Here is the Five of Swords. Hey, Jade. This is the King of Wands. I know it's backwards for y'all Instagram people, but y'all work with me. This is the Three of Pentacles. I literally just tweeted about the Five of Swords. So the fact that it's coming up in this reading is affirmation and a reminder to me, but also to you all. I love this card. I love the Five of Swords. I used to hate it. It used to come up all the time in my life when I was in an intractable conflict where there was no way to resolve. I just had to fight. But I wish I knew then what I know now, that the Five of Swords is, I wrote this down somewhere. I wrote this down something. I think it was this morning. Gosh, man, synchronicity and spirit just be loud all day. I literally just wrote this. Yes, I'm going to tell you what I said. Disregard, this is about the Five of Swords, disregarding the opinions of others and not taking their opinions into consideration when you're making a decision, right? Disregarding the opinions of others. Yeah, that's really hard. It's really easier said than done. This is not to say that you don't need people, but like to really get where you're going, like you literally can't look for validation because those people are invested in the old you. And it's not wrong, it's not their fault. Change is hard for everyone. Look how hard it was for you to get to where you are right now. Like, look what band-aids you had to rip off and what things that you had to face and realities that you'd been avoiding that like smacked you in your face, right? Everybody's not built for it. And if they are, it comes about in different ways. Some people will take it to the grave and avoid change. Other people embrace it. And then they get to that one point where like, whoa, okay, all right, that's enough. But the Five of Swords, remember, I'm pressing toward the mark of the high calling, which we're defining the high calling at this point, is making your life a living testimony of your intentions and convictions. To have this moment of empowerment where how you see yourself, your life, and this world, you find the courage and that fiery contagion of conviction to live it and be it. And so in order to do that, you got a Five of Swords. You cannot overvalue the opinions of other people. Remember when I was talking about at the beginning of this collective moment of ambivalence and how we make things black and white? Gemini likes to read books. Gemini likes to consider all of the information and get more information. Gemini likes to add another piece to the puzzle, and it overly complicates things because Gemini's strong suit is not discernment. Gemini's strong suit is collecting and aggregating information. It's reading and consuming information. It's naming information. But the challenge here is that with too much information, you lose sight of your own intentions and convictions. And so the Five of Swords is really warning us to be careful, not to overvalue the opinions of other people's and at other times to just completely disregard it. This is really great for the King of Wands, especially the way that I have understood the Four of Wands and the Seven of Wands and the Page of Wands. It's a new moon in Sagittarius, which is a fire sign. What do you expect? A bunch of swords? I know, right? King of Wands. There's for me, the Two of Wands and the King of Wands are analogous, right? The Two of Wands for me is the opportunity to exercise dominion and claim authority. But the King of Wands is being in the seat of authority. The King of Wands is embodying the entitlement that allows you to exercise authority and dominion over your world and over your life. This is why you have to fight with swords, right? Right now, right? Especially if you're the kind of person that likes to, like me, like likes to draw a lot of tarot cards and look at a bunch of charts and be like, okay, that's happening here, that's happening there. But like sometimes you just have to close your eyes to all of the information and really say, what is my intention? And your intention cannot be rooted in evidence. Your intention cannot be rooted in external evidence. External evidence looks like the validation and opinions of other people. External evidence looks like more information. External evidence and needing external evidence to validate your intentions is a way to circumvent risk. But you can't always circumvent risk, especially not a moment like this, right? You cannot circumvent risk at a moment like this. You've already taken the risk in like deciding that you're going to be somebody different. And maybe you didn't decide. Maybe life was just like, wow. And you were like, okay. You cried uncle and you're like, fine, I'll change. And then you're like, wow, why did I put this off so long? And then now that you're in the midst of the change, it's like, wow, this is really uncomfortable. But the King of Wands is admonishing us to embody a healthy sense of entitlement that says, you know what? I trust my own perceptions and judgments, and I don't need the opinions of other people in order to make them valid. This is hard for a lot of us because we've spent so much of our lives with our perceptions and judgments being undermined, right? Right? We've spent so much of our lives um, uh, with people telling us that what we're seeing is not accurate, that our judgment of a person or situation is not accurate. And so we look for that validation because we've kind of been, um, we've been, we've been shaped and formed, or our experiences have made it so that we believe that our own judgment and our own perceptions are faulty. But at this moment, taking the risk to trust your own perceptions and judgments means that you disregard the opinions of other people. Okay? The last card here is the Three of Pentacles. And this card is such the odd card out. I mean, like, ain't Nan Pentacle in this reading. Ain't Nan Pentacle anywhere in this reading. All we have are cups and wands and one sword. And the sword is not bad just because it really does fit with this King of Wands. But the Three of Pentacles is just like, what are we doing here? I had a revelation about this card recently, and I'm wondering if I can recall it. This card actually comes up for me quite funnily. It's come up for me personally in my personal life in a couple of different, very specific contexts. One is like when I have to go get my car repaired, like the Three of Pentacles is like the mechanic, right? Or if I was having like band rehearsal, the Three of Pentacles was the rehearsal, like, right? Everybody coming together. Oh, okay. All right, Spirit. I heard you. I heard you. Three of Pentacles can be about consulting experts, but guess what? You're the expert. Wow, that's so fascinating. I love it when it just comes back around that way. Three of Pentacles is about consulting experts, right? You take it to the mechanic or the repairman. But like, see, when it comes to your life, your perceptions, your judgments, your will, your intentions and convictions, you are the expert. And anybody else who you bring on your team is just playing a supportive role. This is really, 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 really important. Because even if we look at the collective atmosphere, there is this call, wait a minute, we just need more information. No, you don't. Like, you literally do not need any more information. At this point in the game, waiting for more information is a dereliction of the duty. It's an abdication of responsibility, right? It's lack of courage. You don't need any more information. Enough. Who told you that your intention wasn't enough? Who told you that you needed to like gather a committee around what you're doing with your life? Who told you that you need to sit down and lay it out for people? Who told you? Who told you that you needed to consult an expert on what you're doing with your life and who you are and who you're becoming? Why have you relegated yourself to the back seat as if you can't run this ship? I was thinking about me wearing this shirt today, and I didn't choose it on purpose, but like my brain did like that connect the dots thing of like Jupiter, Thor, but then I got it confused with Poseidon. But then I was thinking about ships and travel. And then we have like this Page of Wands. These two cards together, I just want to come back to this real quick. This Page of Wands and Eight of Cups. Especially with the Eight of Cups in the middle. You're going somewhere. I don't know where you're going, but you're going, but you're leaving it behind. Let me pull this all together for us. This Four of Wands moment at this full moon in Sagittarius 1 of 2 is taking us back to the new moon solar eclipse in Sagittarius that was tightly conjunct Saturn on January 5th, 6th, depending on where you live. And solar eclipses are about walking away, abandoning, or something being eclipsed and removed from your life. But it's also about embracing, so that inevitably you abandon one thing to embrace another. This full moon is not an eclipse, but we are squarely in eclipse season. And this full moon, and full moons in general, are a high point. You can say that there are Four of Wands in general, right? So the 6-month period from January until now has been a doozy. It has been a ride. That Mercury retrograde in February and March of 2019, that was a lot. That Pisces phase of mutable madness, that was a lot. Jupiter dipping into Sagittarius from March 29th until April 22nd, that was a lot, right? All of the oppositions with Jupiter, and now all of the oppositions with Saturn. That is a lot. But what these oppositions have really articulated for us is the process of becoming aware. The astrology behind that is that if we go back to November and December of 2018, there were conjunctions between planets in Scorpio and Jupiter, conjunctions between planets in Sagittarius and Saturn, and conjunctions are always with the lights off. You cannot see. And so we got to that Pisces phase of mutable madness, and we got to the Aquarius Mercury retrograde, and now we had a corner point, which is a crisis, a challenge. And now we're at this full moon moment, a collective full moon moment, where planets in Taurus have been opposing Jupiter and Scorpio, and now planets in Gemini are opposing planets in Sagittarius. It's at the full moon that the lights come on, that you can actually see. So this milestone of the Four of Wands is being in full awareness of what you're dealing with. Being in full awareness of the incongruence between who you've been and what you say you believe. Becoming aware of the dissonance between your conscious intentions and the adaptations that you've taken on to survive. So this Four of Wands moment is reaching this milestone of awareness. We've persisted in the face of internal resistance. We've persisted in the face of external resistance. I press toward the mark. Let me just go ahead and read it for y'all one more time, just in case you're tuning in and you missed it. The scripture just popped in my head um, as I was doing these cards, and it says Philippians chapter 3, and I'm starting in the middle of verse 13. But this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before, I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling. What does it mean to forget that which is behind? It means to let go of the rationalizations that you've created around who you are. Saying, well, I'm this way because I went through that. Yeah, you did, but why does what you went through have to be who you are? Especially now that you know you don't have an excuse. So forgetting that which is, it doesn't say pretend like it didn't happen. It doesn't say close your ears and go la la la. Forgetting means don't make it relevant to your present and your future. Don't let it be the shackles that keep you from living consciously. Something I noticed that old people do a lot, and young people do it too, but something that older people do a lot is when they talk, they're just like recounting these old stories over and over again. They're so deeply invested in these narratives of how the world works and how their life is and what they've been through. They're kind of concretized into this script that they just, right? So they just, I remember when such and such and such and such and such and such, don't you know such and such and such and such. That's what old people do, right? Old people who are not really, and let me not say old people, elders who are not really present, right? They're so stuck in the past that they cannot see what is around them, right? And as elders calcify into those narratives, they become less and less relevant to the present environment. So I want to know, are you acting like an elder? Are you telling the same stories over and over and over again about who did you wrong, about who hurt you? This is not to say that it didn't happen. But at some point, it becomes a prison, especially when you don't acknowledge it for what it is. So this moment of becoming aware of these calcified narratives, resisting that pressure, resisting the tug and the pull to just settle into the comfort of just being the way that you've always been. You're resisting even though you have not arrived. You're resisting even though you have not found it yet. You're resisting even though you're not there. Keep it up. Pat yourself on the back. From the vantage point that you're at now, things should look a whole lot different. And so maybe from the vantage point that you're at now, you never even envisioned yourself getting there. So that's why we have the Page of Wands. We have to create a map, right? This is about mapping out our intentions. It's about mapping out the possibilities of who we could be and what that looks like. But recognizing that it looks like abandoning the attachments we have to old stories, abandoning attachments that we have to old narratives, and being aware of the ways in which we try to negotiate and reconcile with our old self. Like we try to like suck our belly in and pull the zipper up, and then that button just pops off because you don't fit anymore. You didn't get too fat. You just don't fit into the old suit that's you. You see what I'm saying? And so that Two of Cups is reminding us that it's really easy to get into the habit of having to explain and rationalize even to other people who you are and why you've made the choices that you've made. But you really don't have to, because this next row, this last row, this Five of Swords, the King of Wands, and the Three of Pentacles, come on now. Disregard the opinions of other people's, because you're the expert. You're the authority on who you are and who you're becoming. Why, like when you're trying to make a change, why do we do this? Why do we look around for evidence from other people? Right? Now, don't get me wrong. Spirit will send the right person at the right time just to say good job. Yes. But you have to be open to the messages. because the messages often don't come in the form of everyone else around you in your life saying, yay, I'm so happy you're different. No, they resist because your change means that they have to change too. And oftentimes when they don't change is when the split happens, right? When you are so different and you are so pressed and you are so pushed and you're pressing towards that mark, some relationships, some people, some ways of relating towards certain people don't fit anymore because those relationships are so deeply invested in the old you, right? I loved this reading. This was fun. I'm gonna have to go back and read this. Watch this for myself. The last piece that I just want to reiterate again is that you don't need any more information. You don't need any more information, and I understand, because I'm talking to myself too. I understand the perceived comfort that comes with getting more information. But at this point, it's just confusing you and taking you off your task. You know what you're supposed to be doing. So stop looking around for more evidence. Stop looking around for more information to validate your intentions. Your intentions stand alone, especially after you've done the work, the very difficult and hard work of reckoning with your past, of forgetting that which is behind you and taking the risk and having the courage to press toward the mark. Don't do yourself a disservice in this moment when you have the opportunity, when clarity is present. We have two more lunations while the sun is in Gemini. We have a new moon solar eclipse, right? And that is on July 2nd. And then we have a full moon, another full moon in Sagittarius, a lunar eclipse on July 16th. I'll be back doing two more, God willing, doing two more tarot readings. And I just wanted to say, for those of you guys who don't know, a couple months ago I offered a 2019 eclipse special reading where we put together your mutable madness and eclipse story in your sidereal birth chart. And I was only able to take a limited number, but I'm opening it back up only for first time clients. Right? Thank you, Jaquavius. Oh, I think I know who you are. Anyways, um, Quavius. Hope I said your name right. Um, yeah, I'm offering that for first time clients only. So I'm gonna post those links, and yeah, that is that on that. You guys, happy full moon. This week is intense. Tomorrow is another day that we have to get through. But once we get through this week, we'll be able to take a breath for like 2 seconds intermittently, because then that stupid Mercury retrograde, which I'll have to try to talk about again. Okay, Instagram is trying to cut me off. I think I've said enough. You all, happy new moon. Thank you for tuning in. Have a happy Monday. You're welcome. Bye.